Hello everyone. It's the 7th episode of Road to Super Bowl, your preview and review of 2024 and 2025 season for each and every single team in the NFL. Today is the lucky number 7, but it is lucky for New York Jets. I mean, when you see the front picture, I think you kind of realize how am I standing on this one. This was an utter chaos, and it's absolutely to surprise of absolutely no one that I'm filming this just like day after the annual grade report of players from locker rooms when they rank their franchise and give them grades. And what a shocker! Ownership for the Jets is an F. I mean, perhaps they don't do that in Madden, but in real life, this kinda matters. But with that being said, how did Jets do overall? And where should they be heading? Let's find out, shall we? So, as usual, we will start with reviewing of the draft. And we start with Olu Fashanu. And as you can see, I was really down on this pick compared to public opinion, compared to general opinion. And it had kind of nothing to do with Olu Fashanu not being a good prospect or being a reach or anything like that. This was kind of only and mainly about the process behind like how the Jets are running this operation, because when they went for Aaron Rodgers, it was clear like we have really good draft behind us, and now we've attracted this old veteran QB that we believe can push us down the line, because the only thing that we are missing is quality quarterback. That's our belief. Obviously, with him, with his age, our window is not super long. This is not Bills, this is not Chiefs, where you are just trying to be constantly on the top and perhaps think 4 or 5 years ahead even. So your window is always open. That was not the case. And with that being said, the first year you go and you draft Will McDonald, development edge player, to the role or to the position where you did not necessarily have a need, and he didn't almost play year one. Okay, and year two, which is like, well, this is kind of it for us, right? And they even proved that by trading mid-season for Devontae Adams. Like, they were clearly trying to go all in. And drafting Olu Fashanu with this was just misunderstanding of how you go about this process, because to me, even with the all-in attitude, the Jets were not the favorites to win a Super Bowl, but they were definitely a team that you felt like could cause some chaos in the playoffs. And when you draft Olu, the guy that, in case of Morgan Moses and Tyron Smith being healthy, would not most likely even play in year one, in the year that you are actually going for it, it just feels absolutely wrong. Like, imagine if they had Brock Bowers, right? Like, that's a guy that year one would be an immediate help. And I'm not saying this just because of what Brock Bowers had as of season. I was mocking them Brock Bowers pretty much the whole draft process last year, or was like one of the players that I definitely thought like, well, Jets, come on, like take him. I really feel like Aaron Rodgers and Brock Bowers could have been very little duo. So, and I do understand Morgan Moses and Tyron Smith being healthy whole season is a rather unlikely event. I do get that. But, well, first of all, you can always get some experienced tackle from the market, just like, for example, Vikings did. They were like, okay, Christian Darrisaw went down. We need comfortable backup for him. They got Cam Robinson. They were like, I'm not saying they were like absolutely okay with that, but it's like year one, you don't expect Olu Fashanu to be like significantly better than what you can get on those type of situations. So this to me was one of the problems that kind of started with this Jet season. And with Olu, like good pick, you know, like he is a good player, he is a good pick. He showed that he can play. Like this was really nothing against him. It was just about, I absolutely hated that process. So that's where you see my grade. For year one, like he got on the pitch, on the field. I'm sorry guys, like I'm European guy. Sometimes this is going to happen. He got there. He was like good enough for a rookie tackle, and nice backup plan, but in all ends, you just really should not be having backup plans in terms of it diminishes your odds to actually win that all in quite significantly. And with the way you've already invested in that, like it's like eating, being on a diet, and you eat the whole Oreo and you just left a couple of crumbles to the side, and you're like, okay, I actually have done something for my health. That's kind of like this thinking when you are so heavily invested and then you draft Olu. Again, nothing against Olu. I think he's going to be a long-time Jet and he could be very, very good player for them. But this was always about the process for me. The second pick, I really liked Malachi Corley. I felt like he could be a nuisance for defenses. He was 65th pick overall, not 56. I'm sorry for that. But like his first year was a huge disappointment. I feel like I underestimated kind of Aaron Rodgers' approach to young players, but also Malachi just did not really take his chances and like run away with them. Obviously, everybody remembers his drop touchdown on 1 yard goal line. That was very crucial for that game, and consequently, kind of for the season. Yeah, this was a huge disappointment for Malachi and for me. Like just really not getting out there. And again, like once again, let's just review the draft process. You are drafting a guy that you believe that is good enough for you. Like this is a good guy. We want to develop him, and then you go and midseason you go and take like Devontae Adams. Like again, like in a situation when it's like really doubtful that you even make playoffs. And again, nothing against Devontae Adams. They were playing very well with Rodgers, but it's like this process is kind of like, yeah, it's just sad. It must have been sad to be a Jets fan because it's like nobody's pulling into the same direction. That's how it felt like. Yeah, somebody may have said there is the goal somewhere, but there is like 7 people trying to do something against that goal. But like they're kind of pushing each other back instead of forward. Not like directly, but indirectly with their moves. But like a huge disappointment for Malachi in his first year. Sat behind him, it was Braylon Allen. Guys, I'm... where am I? Okay. He was the 135 pick, so really apologizing for that. I was checking this one, like, guys, man, I'm disappointed in myself. But let's move past that. He was a 135 pick in this draft. I really liked that one. I thought that he was like not necessarily a top running back in this class, but was not far away from that. And then getting that guy like kind of late in the 4th round was really good value. And I think he showed that, even though it was not in like Bucky Irving type of sense, but definitely when Breece Hall was not really having a great year on his standards, Braylon was there to kind of keep the boat afloat in terms of they got decent enough running back play. So interesting player and pretty nice value. I would say that A+ definitely stands for him after the first year. Isaiah Davis, he had some interesting snaps, as you can see, because his yards per carry were huge, but it's like pretty much all came in 2 games, so you cannot really make huge assumptions from that. But what it says, like they are absolutely like done with Abu Kanda, Israel Abu Kanda, I think is his name. Let me check. Yeah, they actually even got him, who was... How did they draft him? Abadikanda, I'm sorry. They drafted him, in 5th round, so it's like... it's not that consequential of cutting him, but they were clearly kind of done with him after the year 1. That's where they've drafted two interesting running back prospects. Beside them, nothing really to show for. Jordan Travis was never a guy that is going to see a field in this year unless something very bad happened. Hence my grade for him, because it's just like, yeah, we've talked about it. So with that being said, how did the draft pan out? I would have done like hugely different approach towards what they've done. Overall, Fashanu, good. Allen, good. Corley, disappointment. The rest kind of inconsequential. With what they had in terms of picks, it's a good enough draft, but nothing that was there to help them year one when they were all in, or kind of all in. So how did their quarterbacks do? Well, Aaron Rodgers. I'm labeled as an Aaron Rodgers hater, but by one of my friends that does watch NFL kind of closely. I wouldn't say I'm his hater. I don't like him. I don't like him as like this personality of the field. Like, I feel like he just became more of a celebrity than a QB, which is a shame to me. Well, he could still like be a really exceptional quarterback, and I think this kind of took away some things. And also, I don't like some of the attitude in terms of when we are winning. It's kind of all about me. When we are losing, he's pointing fingers, at least in my opinion. And also the fact that he is like so heavily involved and like, kind of pretends otherwise, in my opinion. It's not necessarily what are attractive qualities for me in terms of judging like a person to be great. But in terms of his greatness on the field and his quality there, I've never dissed them. And I feel like the first part of my opinion on him, that's like more of a public opinion, just kind of was like overwhelming even his play on the field in terms of general public. But I feel like his play on the field this year didn't necessarily deserve so much hate as it got. I feel like he was good. In some cases, he was great. He was, again, like similar to like Alvin Kamara, whom we are going to talk about with the Saints, or I don't know, like Zach Ertz, like guys that, you know, if you compare them to their prime, you are disappointed. But if you just look at where they are in terms of, you know, right now, they are very useful players. And in case of Aaron, like I would still say very good players. So I don't feel like that should be forgotten. He was playing quite good. Like obviously there were some things that he did not do exceptionally right. He was not this all Aaron Rodgers, but I would still say he was at least top 15 QB in the league. Somewhere in that area, I would probably put him around that 14 spot, which is still great quarterbacking. I'm not saying it's exceptional, but it's great. Behind him, Tyrod Taylor really didn't get much of an opportunity. I root for him that he actually will get one next year, but we will see. Obviously, Jets are parting ways with Aaron Rodgers. Like I already mentioned, Breece Hall had really disappointing year towards his standards. Especially, I would say, like early in the year, he looked slow. He looked like the juice and the jukes that he had are just not there yet, like not back from the injury. And that's definitely a concerning sign when he's now entering his contract year, and they will have to make a decision of what to do with Breece Hall. And obviously, like for Breece, it's never a good sign to slow down, even on a rookie deal. He's still young, just 24. That he will just be this season, or he will turn 24 this year, so he's still very young. I do believe in him getting his juice back, mojo back, everything. You know, it could be also that like the turmoil that was there, like within the organization, could have some effect on Breece. Tough to say. we will see about that next season. Behind him, really, Braylon shown to be like quite a talented back. The one and only like slight concern for him is he's, or not concern for him, but like when you consider this draft process, it's like they were again drafting a 20-year-old or running back that's not necessarily there to help them year one, right? And especially when there is like such a great class of running backs coming into the league, should you really be doing this like that? But it's just a really minor criticism in this case, because I really like Braylon and felt that he was nice. Pick up Faisal Davis, you might even have something there. So this room looks solid, is very young, and we will see how they proceed towards the future. Though as of 2024, they were not necessarily like pulling this team forward. They were definitely below average room. And now let's move to wide receivers, Garrett Wilson and Davante Adams. Obviously Davante, he has his stats here from Raiders as well. So Garrett Wilson, there are a lot of rumors about him wanting to go out, though he is still under contract for 1 year and probably for 2 years if they pick up his 50th option, which they absolutely should. He's a star of a player, man. Like, despite all the turmoil, despite all the, I would say, miserable quarterbacking that was happening before this year, because this year I think the quarterbacking was still good to great. He's just an amazing player, right? Like, he's young, 25, 24, and like, what is there to say? Like, he does not necessarily have huge flaws in his game. The only thing that you can mention is like he never had the super productive year. That's what like holds him back from the really elite players on his position. But it's like, how do you have like super productive years with Zach Wilson, or how do you have that with Aaron Rodgers throwing balls to his guys, Davante Adams, Alan Lazard? So yeah, like the circumstances for him just were never there. It reminds me a little bit of Terry McLaurin, though like there is definitely longer in the league, never actually like having the proper support cast for him to actually like boom for that 1500 yard season. Will be interesting to watch how they will approach this situation, because I don't think those rumors are not based on his actual feelings. I really feel like he is kind of done with this organization, though with a lot of I would hope, clear leadership that should come with Aaron Glenn. Hopefully from that Detroit style of mentality is like we are all pulling into the same direction. It might change Garrett's opinion, but at the same time, if you are trading him, well, who's going to fetch a heftier price than Garrett Wilson? Like, you have him for 2 years for cheap, or like reasonable cheap, and he's already top 20 wide receiver if we're going about it very safely. So he could literally jumpstart their rebuild if they're about to do one, because they don't necessarily have to. With Davante Adams, I feel like he still was really, really good player. Again, not what he was at his peak, but clearly him and Aaron Rodgers were still quite nice on the same page. It took a little bit of time to get there, but especially in the last couple of games, this was really nice. Though there were games where Davante was just, I would say close to invisible, which is not really like him at his prime. But like he's not at his prime. And another player that I feel like if we see this picture before the start of 2025, if both of these guys are gone, I'm not going to sit here and be shocked. I think for Davante, him being gone is like almost a certainty, because, well, having cap hit of 40 million for this and next year is just too much for a player who he is right now, as well as they just don't have almost any dead cap money if they were to release him. I feel like as of right now, they are exploring possibilities of trading him. I don't really feel like there is a market for that. I think he will end up being cut and kind of probably follows Aaron Rodgers wherever he goes for. At his stage of career, 15 to 20 millions, I would say would be a reasonable type of deal, but we will see. Rest of wide receiver room, give credit where credit is due. Allen Lazard with Aaron Rodgers is Allen Lazard that can play. let's say it that way. There is, I would say, kind of like almost like 2 grades difference between him with Aaron and without Aaron. It's clear the connection is there, but he's even at that point, he's still just a decent starter in my opinion. And like his dependency on Aaron is just way too much to stomach, especially when you are paying 13 millions a year to him. Yet another guy that I would be kind of surprised if he's still on the roster for the next season, because you can either stomach 28 millions in terms of cap hit in this and next year, or you can go zero of that, just 6.5 million in dead cap money. And I feel like he's not really worth kind of 11 millions a year that you would have to pay him when you like subtract the dead cap money. So it's like, who is going to play wide receiver for the Jets, right? I think Malachi Corley will get his opportunity in second year. He like didn't really get that much of a playing time, and yeah, I still think he's a nice enough prospect to, be trusted and not be damned within this organization. In terms of tight end room, they were kind of like pragmatic about this room. It's like, we don't expect much, we are not paying much, and that's what they got. Like experienced veteran and Jack Conklin, third-year player and Jeremy Ruckert, really like kind of guys that were unnoticed. Nobody talked about them. They didn't do anything to stood out. They were just there, I would say, to do their duty, to play to their level. They've done that, but really nothing that would excite you or have you like on the ropes when you were watching Jets. Again, like imagine this room with Brock Bowers. I feel like Aaron Rodgers and his really quick releases plus Brock Bowers, that would be like, actually it's one of the 5 things that if I could like snap back and rewatch the season with some of the, let's say, draft changes, Brock Bowers to the Jets would be definitely one of them. And that's with me saying being Aaron Rodgers hater, right? I would really love to see that, because I was so excited about that one. I felt like Jets with Bowers could have been really, really good. Though, like, obviously the internal situation would probably mess this up. Kind of untold story of this team is actually how good this offensive line was playing, and how a lot of their young pieces, especially in terms of interior, where it's a lot of young guys, how much strives towards future they've made. There is one important note. Aaron Rodgers is, I would say, quite friendly towards his offensive linemen in terms of he can really get the ball out there within a second almost. And with that being said, it's like, well, if we only need to block for a second or second and a half, that's obviously easier to do than when it's like Caleb Williams trying to go for a lot of hero balls and we need to block for 2.5, 3.5 seconds. So that's definitely one thing that you need to watch when you will be evaluating these guys next season. How they can adjust to slightly different quarterback. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers really helps you even with signals and stuff. Though helps, like it could sometimes be confusing because there is a lot of things that he's changing. But if you are able to like mentally process that, this is going to really, really help you. So I feel like they've learned a lot, and and they could really benefit from that. But it also could be some of their weakness could have been shadowed over Aaron Rodgers and how he approaches, let's say, a QB position. We will start with Elijah Vera Tucker. Finally, he played a full year and he was really, really exceptional. Like He played like top 7 guard in the league, which is like tip of my hat that I don't have to him. And that we always knew that was a possibility for him. It was just, can you stay healthy? Can you show it? Finally, he did. And we can only hope that it's going to happen for years to come. Yeah, I'm sorry, it was his 4th year, but he kind of missed 2 seasons due to injuries, like almost entirely. But what is it doesn't end well. Like it doesn't end there with this group of interior, because Joe Tipman, 2nd year, like I don't think you can expect much more from a 2nd year center whom you did not invested, like let's say top 15 pick. He was a 43rd pick overall, and he's just absolutely living up to that, perhaps even surpassing your, I wouldn't say like wildest dreams, but he's definitely developing as great as you could have hoped for, and he was really, really solid out there. You know, like even right now he could compete for what, let's say top 15 center is probably like really safe. Top 10 would probably be a reach, because there are still some really good centers in the league, but it's not necessarily a position that has like so much talent that, you know, if he repeats or even improves next season, I think the top 10 is absolutely like really, really easy for him to just reach to. And it doesn't end there, because even John Simpson was an absolutely pleasant surprise, because his first 4 years in NFL were kind of meh, and meh is not even like, doesn't do it justice. He was like drafted in the 4th round, and he was living up to that. Like he was playing like a 4th round pick that doesn't necessarily develop, but boy oh boy, it came. In this year, he was rock solid out there. Like again, I'm with him. I'm probably like the most worried, because he doesn't necessarily have the draft pedigree. He doesn't have like the snaps in the past to like prove that this is what he is. But for what he was this year, I couldn't do anything but to give him a good starter, because over 1,000 snaps playing like this. Yeah, but you know, with him, I'm definitely like the most worried out of the 3 that this could have been something that's like heavily influxed by Aaron Rodgers and does not have to repeat in the future. So watch John Simpson. In terms of tackles, I think you kind of got what you hoped for from Tyron Smith. In terms of Morgan Moses, it was slightly worse than you perhaps hope. But still, for veterans, I wouldn't say that neither of them looked as they declined massively. With Moses, it was a visible decline. With Tyron Smith, it still is about him staying healthy, which like he kind of did for good part of the season, but not necessarily the whole season. But like I would say he's more towards like probably won't stay healthy, but if he's out there, he will give you really good performance. With Morgan, it was like there is higher chance for him to stay healthy, but unfortunately the decline is more visible. With this, Olufashanu got his opportunities, he played well towards them, and like kind of repaid their safety and security check, but what good did it do to them, right? But they could have someone for the future for sure, because I feel like Olu is going to be starter next season, unless they are really weird or he's injured. With that being said, we've run down the offense. How would I like end this segment? It was Aaron Rodgers' offense, so at the end of the day, it fell short towards the expectations. But I would say that the offense for the Jets was far, far, far away from the biggest problem that this team had. Like, I did not expect them to be top 10 offense. Like, there is talent, but there is not necessarily exceptional one. and they did not reach like even my expectations. That was probably lower, but to me, the Jets were, if we can produce average or slightly above average offense with a smart quarterbacking, with an experienced guy that knows where he needs to push and where he like needs to shh and let the rest of the team play, the story should have been about the defense. That, you know, even the year before just did not break despite like, you know, their season was done pretty much in 5 snaps, and that did not break and were excellent. So the expectations were slightly above average offense, top 3, or like even top defense, and that's how we win. Unfortunately, the defense did not hold their end of the bargain. Let's be fair, they didn't have it like made easier. First of all, they lost Jermaine Johnson, their up-and-coming, really nice pass rusher, within, again, second game of the season. So yeah, that was really a tough blow. Unfortunate for J-Man and unfortunate for the team. Also, they traded before the season for Hassan Reddick, and they were not reaching a deal with him, which made him hold out. So, you know, kind of week 2 and going forward, you were without Jermaine Johnson and you were without Hassan Reddick, whom you all trusted that they are going to be there and they are going to make a difference for you. So immediately, 2 of your edge pieces that you wanted to count on were not there. With Hassan, there is one thing I want to mention, like beyond his play on the field, that was just not really great. It's like, I feel like it's kind of unfortunate reality that holding out rarely kind of works for players. I don't think Hassan really got what he wanted in terms of money. He lost more money than he gained this season, and he didn't get the long-term deal. So I would say unfortunate reality is that the teams kind of have an upper hand. It might be also just about the Jets, you know, let's remember Le'Veon Bell. But even if the guys kind of get what they want, they are really the same after that holdout. Like, I feel like only Trent Williams was really kind of the same player after his holdout. So this might be something that future players could look into, and it's like, yeah, it's probably not the smartest decision for our career. And maybe that's something that like a player association needs to address for players as well, because this always has been like kind of reasonably powerful tool in a league where the owners kind of have a lot of leverage. And now it just seems like it doesn't really benefit those players, you know, based on last couple of cases. And we will see how this one progresses. With Michael Clemens, the thing about him is he just could not live up to what he did in year 1, when it was like probably easier for him to just go from college to pros given his age. Like, dude is the oldest player on this defensive line, which is crazy because he just played his 3rd year in terms of NFL, and there are guys on second contract. Obviously, not to mention Hassan Reddick, right? But he is already 28, or will turn 28 this season. Let me check. Yeah, he will turn 28 this season. And at this point of his career, his good experience, yeah, you have to call him experience despite being on a rookie deal, type of backup, but nothing more, which is unfortunate after what we saw year 1 from Michael Clemens. Continuing with the edge, we finally see Will McDonald playing much more football, and I would say he was kind of like what you expected Hassan Reddick to be, 80% of what you've paid or what you've traded for in terms of Hassan Reddick. Really good pass rusher, very nice moves, but kind of almost like a pass rusher specialist at this point of his career, which is like kind of too early to profile into that, especially with how much you've invested in him, because he was 17th pick. Let me check on this one, 15th pick, yeah. Overall, he needs to improve his run defense, because you just or like perhaps he doesn't, but in my opinion he does, because drafting a pass rush specialist with the 15th pick overall, I mean, in that case he would have to like deliver you 18 sacks a season every single year. to make it even worthwhile. So definitely very intrigued what his 4th year is going to show us, because in terms of pass rush, he was looking very, very well. But in terms of overall being an edge player that's not a liability on half the down that he's out there, kind of this free down edge player, he didn't look like he could handle that as of right now. So we will see. Now towards the interior and Quinnen Williams. Like, the conversation about Quinnen is kind of hard for me, because when I was like, the defense should be top, you definitely counted on Reddick to be there, on Johnson to be there. So the cast around Quinnen Williams definitely shrinked to the point that he was a clear leader. He was a player that they needed to absolutely count on. And I felt like he did not necessarily lift to his end of the bargain compared to what we were able to see in past years. And again, I will absolutely understand if you say, well, offense is focused on him even more than in past years. And I would understand it, like, I definitely do, but to me, he just wasn't as good as he was the years before. Like, his missed percent on tackling, went from 15 or even 10% to 26%. You could see him being pushed much more than you did in the past. And I just don't think this was Quinnen Williams at his best. And they needed him at his best, and there is like nothing age-wise that would suggest that you should not expect him to be at his best. Like, he is 27, right? So to me, he was a disappointment. There is no way I'm saying he's anything less than an amazing starter. Like, I think this dude is exceptional, and I do expect a huge comeback year from him. I also feel like Robert Saleh firing was could have led to this, because I really feel like Salah and his approach and his attitude, especially towards defensive linemen, is something that boosts you up. Like, I would, if I were a defensive lineman, Robert Salah would be top 5 guys I want to play under. So I'm not saying for the future Quinnen Williams is anything but a stud, but this year, to me, he was one of the disappointing parts of this defense that just did not hold up to be what we expected them to be. But like I said, there was a lot of circumstances that, if you want to smack this over my head, please, let's go for it. I'm not going to even defend myself that much. It's just perhaps even me being super high on Quinnen. I feel like he, before the season, I would put him out there with Chris Jones and Dexter Lawrence. I cannot say that after this year, if I'm true to myself. Javon Kinlaw, highly drafted player that kind of never lived up to his draft pedigree. As of right now, he's a solid journeyman veteran that, in a best case scenario, he's just a rotational piece, but he was out there, he was doing his thing, and he was not bad at all. In terms of these guys, they are very similar stories to Javon Kinlaw, beside the part that they are even solid players overall. And we are talking about Solomon Thomas and Fidarian Mathis. Both of these guys drafted in the first round, and Solomon Thomas carving himself quietly solid career. He's probably going to earn some more millions towards his name. But Fidarian Mathis, dude, he was already cut on his rookie deal despite being, he was just a second round, even just a 47th pick, I'm sorry, by the Commanders, which is kind of crazy. They've got Emmanuel Forbes, they've got Fidarian Mathis. It's just insane what they were able to accomplish this year despite their past drafts being so shit that they let go some highly drafted players even halfway through their through their contracts, through their rookie deals. Fidarian didn't show pretty much anything here. He's just a liability, and like, yeah, they could bank on his athleticism, and I still do expect that he might get some chance. We will see how Aaron Glenn views him, but yeah. Leonard Taylor, the third, that's absolutely a different story. He is an undrafted pickup that was kind of forced out there absolutely unexpectedly, and yeah, he was looking like a solid option. As of right now, do you expect him to like carve himself a role? Well, you probably should. Like, it's not like he played in one game and looked super great, and in others he just did not. He was really out there throughout the whole season, like gathering 5 to 10 snaps a game, then later slightly more, and looking like a really useful rotational piece. So perhaps he could be a guy that I have on my watch list in the summer, and solid backup might not give him justice, though. It's like really hard to give him anything more when he's undrafted player. Not necessarily someone I had on my radar, like he should have been drafted. You know, it's not like Jalen Coker, who I felt like, yeah, he should have been drafted. So we'll see if I don't push his grade towards a good backup over the summer. But overall, defensive line, what was felt to be solid, the strength of this team was disappointment. And I get it. There were injury to Jermaine Johnson, and there was the contract dispute from Hassan Reddick. Yeah, they really didn't get from what they expected from this room. And unfortunately, like the injury bug did not really felt powerless even with linebackers, because unfortunately veteran CJ Mosley again went quite early down for the whole season. But they had Jamin Sherwood, who stepped up, and like when I say stepped up, he really freaking stepped up. This dude is an absolutely feel-good story for this team, because he is undrafted he is 5th rounder, so really kind of low draft pick that like never had an opportunity to show what he can do on a huge sample size. But this year, finally, he got that. Unfortunately for the Jets, it has to come on the benefit of CJ Mosley's injury. But I feel like they were not necessarily panicking after CJ Mosley went down, because Jamin Sherwood, when he played in his first 3 years of his career, he looks very good, very interesting, but he never got that opportunity. He finally did, and boy oh boy, it was fun to watch him. It was clear that he's playing for his future, he's playing for his money, and he's playing hard, and he understands. I feel like learning behind CJ Mosley definitely really helps you grasp this position very, very well. And even right now, his market value skyrocketed. He's supposed to be out there for like 7 to 8 minutes. I think he could be a bargain, because I really believe in Jamin Sherwood. He's only 25, like he just turned 25. And with the pedigree of like 3 years with Robert Saleh, 3 years with CJ Mosley, with Quincy Williams, like he should have learned shit ton. Like if I'm out there and I'm looking for a linebacker that I just want to like put I wouldn't say like my career on as a GM, but I'm really like, look guys, this might seem like too much to pay for him, something in an area of like 3 years, 24 million, but I actually do believe it could be a bargain. Jamin Sherwood would be one of the top of my lists. Next to them, Quincy Williams, I would say at this point is kind of his standard, and his standard is really fucking high. He definitely followed on his breakout season last year. So, again, his first couple of years in the league were disappointing, but he finally broke in last year. And right now, I would say this is kind of Quincy that we do expect to see. it was definitely something that he needed to prove this season, especially with CJ mostly going down, that he can kind of lead this room, and he definitely did that. So kudos to Quincy, kudos to J-Man, and this was actually, despite losing their best player, their most experienced player, after 2 games, they were really nice really nice pieces for this defense. With safeties, I would really say that this is very similar to what we said about tight ends, which is, well, they didn't pay much for this group and they didn't get much. The only really feel-good story of this group is Tony Adams, who is an undrafted pickup that they got in 2022, and in his third year, he definitely showed that his future is bright. I'm not saying he is this standout safety or that he is going to be any type of a stud player, but every time he gets his opportunity, he really played up to the competition and really felt like if he's your second best safety, you are really good with that. Obviously, he's your best, so it's as a composition of this room, you are not happy with that, but for him, yeah, definitely. So you can have him for very cheap because he's restricted free agent for you for next season. So that is it would be beyond my mind if they did not bring him back. And one more season like this, and he is a good starter, at least in my books. Definitely a little interesting player that perhaps doesn't have the biggest traits in the league, but plays hard, plays with his brain, and is a very nice find on an undrafted market. In terms of Chuck Clark, Jalen Mills, kind of let's say veterans that you didn't expect much to get, and you really didn't get much. With Chuck Clark, he was probably even more disappointing that you would hope for, especially in terms of coverage. They were just picking him apart. But when your whole investment towards this group is around 5 million, what can you expect, right? Where the things, let's talk about other guys that they had on the roster because they don't really have them anymore. It was Isaiah Oliver, a player that kind of played in terms of everything. He was on punt return, kick coverage. He played some free safety. He played most of his time as a slot corner for them. Former 2nd round pick. Quite a decent player, and again, a guy that they don't have on the roster for next year. He was drafted by them, was he? No. Let me check. No, he was drafted by the Falcons, and they signed him for 1 year. And yeah, it was a cheap contract, 2.5 million, nothing super exciting, but he delivered quite a nice performance. The coverage, it was not necessarily great. And in terms of what he is going to be worth on the open market, it remains to be seen, because I think he earned himself something a little bit more than 2.5 million. Ashton Davis, another guy that's not on their payroll for next year. It's another free agent. They paid 1 year to play there. It was solid. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna say that they did not pull their weight, but it was bunch of solid players, whom the only one that I would say has the future or long-term future with this team is Tony Adams. So, bunch of guys. I would say really a practical approach towards this room. League doesn't value these guys, so we can pick them up on cheap, 1 year. If any one of them shine, maybe we can keep them, probably not. And fortunately for us, kind of the one guy that we do have the rights to get for next year's was really, really good in Tony Adams. So it kind of went, I would say, really good for for how the Jets approach safeties. And then let's focus on these cornerbacks. And when I was doing the preview for the 2024 season, I was saying this to me is the best cornerback trio in the league, and I don't think it's particularly close. Well, they did not necessarily play it up to that. Well, they did not play up to that. Michael Carter was not playing up to his standard by any stretch of imagination, and he went down. That's why Isaiah Davis actually got a lot of his playing opportunities. The biggest fall down is definitely Sauce Gardner because, well, he looked like a human, like his first 2 years in NFL, he didn't look like a human. He looked like an absolute machine. A corner that even within 2 years in the league, you say, well, he's best, and it's not like super close. Well, right now, definitely you do put Pat Surtain into the debate who is the best corner in the league because Sauce didn't play like one this year. Again, you can put it on internet turmoil and coaches change and defensive line not actually like pulling their weight, and that was one of my concerns, or one of like things I wanted to focus with Sauce when I was like looking through his film, was like he's playing in really good defense. That defensive line can create push, they can create pressure, so that definitely helps you as a corner, right? Like when you don't have to cover for 4 seconds, that's very nice because you can adapt your style towards this. You can be much more taking much more risk because that there is less time to punish them. So this was kind of first year where I felt like the rest of the defense, especially defensive line, where I wouldn't say like a huge liability, but were a little bit of a disappointment, and it showed on Sauce tape. But do I put him from the elite starter? Hell no, like not after this year. And unless he repeats something like this next season, then we can talk about it. But for right now, he definitely stays there, and I would still like definitely say that he is easily in top 3 corner conversation in the league. DJ Reed, I would say it's kind of similar. He still looked like a really good player, but not necessarily beyond the doubt the second best corner, like the best second corner on any NFL team. Still, I would say he is easily in conversation for being top 3 in this area. But what I thought was like kind of a no-brainer resigning for them right now after the season, and like he's definitely going to get expensive, around 15 minutes a year. Suddenly, this might come with, maybe he's not a Jet anymore after this year. I feel like they would for sure keep this trio together because they were so good. Right now, I'm not so sure with DJ Reed. They re-signed Michael Carter before the year, so he's going to be there, Sauce is going to be there, but perhaps DJ is not, because, you need to save money somewhere, and with slightly down season to where you would like to see him, or what his standards was, again, it's like slightly, it's not just he fell off a cliff, but I would say like this is not necessarily a year that you want to be like you are super certain that you want to pay this guy a premium for being your number 2. I would say he's probably going to get perhaps slightly overpaid by some team that just really looking for number 1. And we will see if DJ can hold to that. That being said, let's hand out some rewards. So, draft hit, to me it's Braylon Allen. It was between him and Fashanu, but again, like unless he would be really good tackle like year 1 compared to like where my rookie standards are, it was like really tough to give him that because again, not because of him, but because Brock Bowers in this offense. So sorry, Olu. I know it's not your fault. Like you've done kind of everything in your power, but I would say the same can go to Braylon Allen. So with that being said, I was like really this reward goes to Braylon. In terms of draft blunder, it cannot be anyone else but Malachi Corley because man, like he just he just didn't play much, right? And you've invested really solid pick into him in a draft that had still at that point of time so many difference makers. Like let me just check what. Not necessarily that you would get him, but I just wonder. Yeah, for example, like Dominic Puni. You know, you were like before the season. I would say no one knew that John Simpson is going to have such a good year. So, for example, drafting Dominic Puni, and there were so many great players drafted behind Malachi that's just really hard to not see him as a draft blunder at this point of the time, when he's not necessarily the youngest prospect. I'm not saying he's old, but he's not 20 years old, right? In terms of who was the cornerstone of this franchise, the guy that you really felt like make the strides to become the key player and had a really great season towards the expectation, I had to give it to Elijah Vera Tucker, because to me he's potentially top 3, top 5 guard in the league. He has everything in his bag for that, and he finally showed that. He was finally able to show that he's capable of this thing. Obviously, with him, he will always be worried about his health, so it could be kind of a shaky cornerstone for you. But with the two guys that I felt like it would be kind of no-brainer towards this, Sauce and Quinnen having a down year, and with the third option for this was Garrett Wilson, who had a good year, but he kind of semi-publicly is like asking to be traded. So that's where I'm like, yeah, it's Elijah for me. In terms of unsung hero, I have to give it to J-Man Sherwood, because this is exactly the type of player that should be handed this reward, because not very many of you have even heard of him. I mean, even right now, I'm pretty sure that a lot of general public has no idea about the J-Man Sherwood. They will know CJ Mosley, obviously, he is a well-known player. They will know Quincy Williams, partially because he is Quinnen's brother, but also like he's been out there for several years, and J-Man Sherwood is kind of in their shadows. But this year, he needed to step up. He finally got his opportunity, and he played himself up to get really nice money. And boy, I'm really excited about his future, because I think he has even more to show us, and I would not put it past him if he is like within the next 2 years top 7 linebacker in the league. I think it's a bold prediction, but I think it's in this still young man. In terms of flop, I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this one. But when I was looking through this, it's like, well, Aaron Rodgers, I don't necessarily think he played worse than I expected. With Sauce Gardner, definitely could have been here. But I was like, well, the effect that the defensive line has on his play is, I would say, worse than what himself or like Cordons has on how the defensive line looks. So it was pretty much between these two guys. And with that, I was like, well, to me this season it was Quinnen Williams. There was also potential to give it to Breece Hall, but I felt like he kind of picked it up later in the year, and also like I felt like he was still slightly recovering from injury. So yeah, that's how my reasoning got to Quinnen. Again, I absolutely do not expect him to be just a great player that he was this year. I do expect that he's going to be amazing to elite next year again. But to me, he was one of the biggest reasons why this defense did not live up to what we've expected them to be. That being said, let's run down overall how this franchise is stacking up, where they are at. And we do that with their new head coach, Aaron Glenn. For him, my grade is a C. Here, C does not necessarily mean average, it means below average. My average for coaches is B. I'm just like, I would say I'm kind of like very on the same boat as general public would be on this one. It's like when you thought about Lions coaching staff, it was Ben Johnson, it was Dan Campbell, and Aaron Glenn was kind of this third guy in the background that you didn't necessarily associate the Lions uproar towards the great heights with. And also, like, when you just see numbers of this defense, you are like, what? We think this guy is good? Yeah, he's damn good. Like, especially what you see with, like, how depleted his defense was, what they were able to put up as, say, game plan against the Vikings in that Week 18 game was really exceptional. But there were several stinkers among the way, and it's like, well, it's really hard to put up anything when like you really don't have talents and pretty much everyone is injured. But I feel like why he's getting this job is, well, he's really good defensive coordinator, but I would not call him guru at this point. Like, I don't think he's necessarily top 5 defensive coordinator, which is like usually what my standards would be for them being drafted as a head, like being taken as head coaches. But I feel like everybody in the organization believes that he can bring Detroit mentality here, really put things in order, put them together, and like put this boat on the right track. What's like slightly worrying with this process and with this thinking is, well, I felt like you kind of had this one guy in Robert Saleh. Like, I'm not saying they are like the same person or whatever, but guy with like with Salah, you might say there's less of an experience to Aaron Glenn, so that might be what this franchise needs right now. Besides, like the attitude is also experience, so that's probably like the biggest difference. But in terms of like what he brings to you otherwise, in terms of defense, in terms of attitude, I felt like this is kind of the way they've already went. So I was a little bit surprised with this hire, but overall, I would not say it's a bad hire by any stretch of imagination. I think Aaron Glenn could be a very interesting head coach. But am I necessarily certain that this is going to be a huge success? I will remain to be persuaded. In terms of how this team done 2024, I don't think I gave anyone worse grade than E-. They were obviously thinking about Super Bowl. They are drafted in top 7. Like everything. Madden ratings being a reason why you are signing and not signing guys based on son of the owner, like whether it's true or not. Like the fact that it's like you cannot even disprove that rationally. The Salah firing, it's like Rodgers saying I didn't know about it. I'm like it's, I do not believe him. But if that's the if I were to believe him, it's like, what the fuck are you doing? You just brought this guy, you kind of hand him semi-reins over this franchise, and you are firing head coach without consulting with him. Like, what are we doing here? So yeah, like everything pretty much. I would say, beside the entire offensive line that were like absolutely exceptionally, every one of them like really made a huge step up towards their career, towards their quality. Like beside that and Jamin Sherwood, there was really nothing that you are happy about. Like not some crazy draft, nothing. So definitely has to be E-. In terms of QB, I was doing this ranking without Aaron Rodgers on the roster, and you have Tyler Taylor, who I think is a very good bridge QB for solid money. You are paying him like $7 million a year. So to me here, quality absolutely matches what you are paying these guys to have. But obviously this is a league where QBs are like hugely important, so you cannot get anything but a slight negative because you are not having a difference maker. But this is kind of where I'm sitting with like bridge QBs on a very reasonable contracts. And even like for this situation, I think Tyrod Taylor is kind of very good guy because he is mature individual being that understands his role, understands this is not about me, this is about the team. And I think I would not be shocked if Aaron Glenn like runs with him for 2025. In terms of hot seat, I think this is my highest hot seat for a newly appointed head coach, and this is mostly because like this franchise is super dysfunctional at this point. So like even if I liked Aaron Glenn even more than I do, like I like this hire, but not like I'm not stoked about it. I would still have like, even if they could take Ben Johnson, the hot seat would still be free because like I don't trust this ownership. I don't trust this team to just understand how to kind of behave. In terms of finances, they pushed some decent money down the line when they were making this push for Aaron Rodgers and his Super Bowl window, and they did not necessarily hit on last two drafts. So despite them having like still Sauce and Garrett on their rookie deals, which would be like you should really be getting, like they have like value in like top players. It's towards the end of their rookie deals, not necessarily, especially with Wilson, he's still there, and also there is just not that much money for now to be like handed to free agents. Though you can definitely relieve some of those if you are cutting Devontae Adams and Alan Lazard. So if those decisions are going to be made, the finances would shift with me towards -1. Again, do I necessarily trust them that they can do that? Well, that remains to be seen. Strength, value. To me, you have, like I said, especially in Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson, you have two players that, in case you want to try to start a rebuild, which I don't think they will, but in case you would want to, you have two supreme trade pieces that can jumpstart it like that. Is it what you need? Is it what you are going to do? Maybe and probably not. But these two players still having like 2 years left on their rookie deal, though the 5th year option is not cheap for either one of them. That's your huge benefit that you have for this team. In terms of division, I gave them 1-, and it's like, well, Patriots should be better, but we don't know. Like they should, but it's not necessarily like it's going to happen like that just because you have money that you will invest them correctly. And they have, like, as of right now, their roster is leaking talent or like does not have too much talent. And GMaty, I have huge expectations from him, but he needs to kind of confirm them. In terms of Miami, I think they are secretly one of the most screwed franchise in the league. We will talk about that later. But like Tua contract, I think is bad. Tyreek Hill situation is bad, and let's be frank, like they are kind of stuck in being 7-10 to 10-17, and I don't see like how they are doing anything interesting in the next 3 years, like with how they are set up. Like they are unable to play in cold weather. They are kind of this flashy team that was not so flashy this year. They have some, like I would say as of right now, like bad contract or bad cap hits, and unfortunately they might be one more to a concussion or having quarterback forced to retire because of injuries. Or like I would not be shocked if Tua one day like wake up like Andrew Luck and says, I have enough. And truth to be told, I kind of wish he does, because I like him as a player, I like him as a person. I don't want to see him like getting hit into the head anymore. Like it's just scary, man. But yeah, that's how I feel about Miami. And obviously, what makes this a really bad situation, or like not really bad, but bad situation that's not like neutral, is Buffalo. Like Buffalo is going to be there for several years to come. Josh Allen is insane. If anyone says he's the best QB in the league, as of right now, like I could not make an argument that would not be flawed. I would not put him as number 1. I would put him probably as number 2. But the top 4 with Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Pat Mahomes is as close as they've ever been together. So it's pretty much, I would say there's argument for any one of them to be a top 1. So yeah, that's a problem. You have a juggernaut in your division and he's not going anywhere. With that being said, we close down on 2024 season and let's see how this roster could shape up towards 2025, or how I would approach this. So it's quite easy actually in terms of offensive line. I think the trio interior is absolutely set up. Olu Fashanu is going to be your franchise tackle. I think you just roll with that. And I would actually hand it the reins to Tyrod Taylor. I'm not saying I would not draft a QB, but I'm not sure if Shedeur Sanders is available with number 7. I would probably consider drafting him, but still I would treat Tyrod as my bridge QB. Even if it was Shedeur, who I think is kind of ready, I would give him 4 to 6 weeks, not rushing this process, really taking this year as we need to come back to basics, not really try to jumpstart anything, and really try to build this solidly together. So I actually do expect Tyrod to be their week 1 starter. And with right tackle, whether it's through the draft or through free agency, I think they're going to address this situation. In terms of their skilled players, I'm kind of certain on where their running backs stand. I think Braylon Allen has shown enough that even in this running back class, you are not necessarily looking to invest in this group, and you still have a lot of faith in Breece Hall. I actually think that replacing the whole wide receiver crew is not what they will want to do, and I think the appointment of Aaron Glenn is something that Garrett Wilson will consider good enough to stay here, and I expect him to be their number 1 guy. With that being said, they need to bring number 2, number 3, because I really honestly believe that they should cut both Devontae Adams and Allen Lazard, because they are not worth their contracts. That's my belief. With Devontae, I am pretty certain that he's not going to be on their payroll, because having a $40 million cap hit on him in a year that, unless they are in my opinion, absolutely screwing it up and just trying to really go all in again, which would be silly in my opinion, there is really no justification in my opinion to have him there. They could be we want to get something for him, and kind of trying to play a hard bargain in that area, but I'm you are better off not doing that. With Allen Lazard, like I said, I would not be shocked if he's back, but to me he's just not worth 11 to 12 million that you can save on him, even with that cap hit. In terms of tight ends, I don't really feel like you have a guy that needs to be a starter on the team right now. I really feel like Jeremy Eckert is backup option, and another spot that I think that they will invest in. In terms of backups, there are some interesting ones. It should not be Braylon Allen here. Could have been Isaiah Davis. Yeah, that's my mistake, guys. Malachi Corley. I think there are situations in which he's featured within that top 3, which would not shock me. But this year was as bad as it could have been for Malachi, because in his one big moment, everybody will see his drop. And yeah, beside that, he didn't show too much. Jeremy Eckert, good backup option, but nothing beside that. The same goes for Max Mitchell. It could be Isaiah Davis, or they could look for another running back, but I think Isaiah is definitely deserving a shot there. In terms of QB, I strongly believe that whether it's Shedeur Sanders, if he's falling down to the number 7, or whether it's guys in 2nd or 3rd round, you should be drafting one. You should be using Tyrod as a mentor to him, and very similar to what Patriots have done with Jacoby Brissett last season. I think that's absolutely the play for the Jets. I hope they will do it this way. And they definitely need to bring some tackles into the mix because they are really lacking into that position. In terms of defense, I think there's much more clarity there. Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald should be your starting edge duo. You've seen enough from Will that you want to give him the full workload. Probably sign a veteran guy that should lower his snap counts on special like first downs on those runs that you expect run. But you still want to put him out there even against the run because you want to see what's in him. Quinnen Williams, clearly the best player on this defensive line. Jermaine Johnson, you just need him back from his injury. And just like with Dexter Lawrence and with several other defensive tackles that are kind of one and where is my help? Well, guys, I'm really good. Please help. I would not be shocked, and especially in this draft, they should be addressing this position because it's a position of need, in my opinion. I don't think you are necessarily using Quinnen right when you don't have guys beside him, and this is really a class to do it. Like there is around 15 guys that are draftable in first 3 rounds, in my opinion, for this position. Though like 5 would be probably considered reach, but definitely 10 guys in which cases we're like, yeah, that absolutely makes sense. You know, again, if Mason Graham falls into their lap, that would be a blessing. So I beg you, teams, please value second defensive tackle position much more than you are right now, especially when you have special talent like Quinnen Williams. In terms of linebackers, this could be very, very interesting because they do have 2 starting linebackers that they are invested in and that they are really good. Though CJ Mosley and Quincy Williams both are not youngest, 28 and 33, and both are entering last year of their contract. So it's like, do you resign Jamin Sherwood for significant amount of money because he deserves that, while not necessarily having a starting spot for him? Are you trying to trade one of your veterans in that situation, or are you like, well, we just figure it out as season goes, or are you letting Jermaine go? I would say the last thing would be very big mistake, but it's not an easy situation to handle because you don't necessarily have like a lot of cap room, and bringing a guy that you don't really necessarily feel like he started this year, though like post 2025 he could be a leader of this room, is quite questionable. So I would say the best thing you can do is to resign him with the plan of trading one of these experienced guys. But is there that much interest in them? And also, I would say that there will be a lot of interest in Jamin. So, like, what's your ceiling towards the offer that you are going to hand to him? So, very interesting situation. And I'm like, this is actually really the one that I will be watching kind of closely. Probably only one besides like the Jets fans, how they will actually handle this linebacker situation, because I think they have a potentially special guy on their hand, but he's not signed with them, so we will see. In terms of secondary, less clarity that you perhaps thought that would be, because there is not many players under contract, and I'm really uncertain, especially if like DJ Reed, whether they will bring him back. So as of right now, I don't necessarily expect that to happen. So the only things are certain that is Sauce, it's Mike Carter, and I would be shocked if they did not bring Todd Adams back, and if he was not one of their starting safeties. But beside that, your guess is any good as mine. They might put some more workload onto Quante Stingers and some other guys that they have drafted, but they really don't have many players under contract, and there is not like a clear guy that I'm like, yeah, I'm certain that they will bring him back. In terms of backups, I put Jamin Sherwood here as a backup because like I kind of don't have a really good spot for him in the first picture because there is 4 defensive linemen and 2 linebackers, so there is kind of not a spot in there, and I feel like they should be bringing him back. I would, if I'm Aaron Glenn, I definitely try that, and I would be like fishing if there is like potential for some nice return, or even Quincy Williams, who I like feel like he could really play, and like CJ obviously. And if there was, I'm letting them go like that. If there is not a nice return, I probably stick with 3 linebackers room, and I definitely can find a place how to utilize them all. Whether it's through rotation or whether it's like we don't trust CJ Mosley's health, that's a different conversation. But to me, Jamin Sherwood needs to be a guy that they will take a hard look at, and unless he wants over 10 million a year, I will sign him to whatever contract beside that, below that he kind of wants. Like even if it's like 5 years, 45 millions, I'm signing him, man. Like I really have a lot of faith in this guy. What kind of have as being brought back is Ashton Davis, who I think is just a veteran that like was looking solid in snaps you gave him, and like from the bunch of guys that I was looking through that they've signed pre-2024 to like 1-year deal, to me he was probably like I would say like the best performing one, but like the most interesting, like still cheap option that I would bring back. In terms of backups for defensive line, Michael Clemons, that's absolute certainty. You still have him on a cheap on his rookie deal. You still have cheap Fidder and Mattis, though. Like if he's cut, like nobody would be surprised. But why not still take a chance on this? He's still an athletic monster, and perhaps Aaron Glenn can figure it out. It has to be said that I feel like, if I'm not like super mistaken, Fidarian Mattis was brought back after Robert Saleh was not in the room, so perhaps if he still was, there could have been something more from him. And Javon Kinlaw would be a guy that I'm bringing back, though I don't want him to start because I would really go for young talent in terms of draft towards this position. But Javon, I know he gives me a solid presence. You know, if my guy is struggling or he needs refreshing, a guy that I want there for like 400 snaps, and really I know what I'm getting from him at this point of his career. So this kind of sums up the Jets. I think it's clear what my approach towards the situation would be. Just not rush it. Just be cool. Be like, okay, we probably missed a really good opportunity window with Garrett Wilson, with Breece Hall, with Sauce Gardner really being this amazing draft that we had. Well, this is past now. Like they are still here, but their contracts are ending, and we should not do like some stupid form of let's go for it again 1 year when we are not having to pay them. Say let's just establish a culture here. Let's just establish some basics that you can build upon, and really treat this season as we just need to be a functional franchise again. Like if they can do this, that to me would be a win for the Jets for next year. Though I do understand the temptation. Like there is still a lot of good players on this roster that like you can persuade yourself that perhaps we still have a shot, but not in my books. Not in my books. So that would be all. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know down in the comments why Quinnen Williams for a flop is a wrong decision, or perhaps why it's right. And we will see you with the next one. Have a nice day. Bye bye.